The Nara court at the end of the 8th century faced an unprecedented rise in political Buddhism, as monks from the Tadeji temple intervened deeply in state administration. Emperor Kanmu ascended the throne in the year 781 and realized that the imperial throne was shaking violently under the economic and religious influence of the major Buddhist sects in Heian-kyo. The height of religious power abuse occurred when the monk Nagaoka-kyo almost usurped the imperial throne from Empress Shotoku in the previous century, with the support of several court ministers. This shocking event caused subsequent generations of the imperial family to live in constant fear of the growing influence of the Buddhist clergy at the capital of Heian-kyo. The imperial court in Heian-kyo was unable to implement new administrative reforms due to fierce opposition from the representatives of the 6 Nara Buddhist sects who owned massive tax-exempt lands. The determination to restore absolute imperial authority motivated Emperor Kanmu to make a bold decision to completely escape the political influence of these powerful religious institutions. Emperor Kanmu began his relocation plan by secretly dispatching his trusted official Fujiwara no Tanitsugu to search for a new land situated far outside the control of the monks from Tadeji and Kofukuji. They required a strategic location with favorable water transportation to ship rice taxes from the eastern and northern provinces of Japan to the central treasury. In June 784, Emperor Kanmu officially issued a grand imperial decree to move the capital from the ancient city of Heian-kyo to the new site of Nagaoka-kyo in Yamashiro province to facilitate comprehensive administrative reforms. This historic decision caused immense surprise and concern among the established aristocratic clans and the entire Buddhist clergy residing in the temples of Nara. The construction of the new capital Nagaoka-kyo was officially assigned to Fujiwara no Tanitsugu for direct supervision, funded by a massive budget diverted from cutting resources to the Buddhist temples in Nara. Tens of thousands of laborers from various central provinces of Japan were mobilized to harvest timber and dig canals to redirect water from the Kyoto River into the new imperial palace. The rapid ascent of the Fujiwara clan through their leadership of the Nagaoka-kyo construction project sparked jealousy and silent resistance from rival aristocratic factions like the Otomo and Kai clans. These hidden conflicts began to threaten the stability of Emperor Kanmu's reign even before the foundations of the new imperial palace buildings could be fully completed. Crown Prince Sawara, the younger brother of Emperor Kanmu and a strong supporter of the old Nara Buddhist establishment, expressed deep dissatisfaction with the court's expensive plan to move the capital to Nagaoka-kyo. The relationship between the two royal brothers deteriorated rapidly, as Crown Prince Sawara continually opposed the sweeping administrative reforms proposed by his brother. In September 785, a highly shocking incident disrupted the construction site of Nagaoka-kyo, when the chief administrator Fujiwara no Tanitsugu was assassinated by arrows while patrolling under the cover of night. This crisis threw Emperor Kanmu into a state of extreme fury, prompting him to immediately seal the entire capital area to apprehend the conspirators. Rigorous investigations by the imperial guards led to the arrest of multiple members of the Otomo clan, alongside several Buddhist monks implicated in the murder of Fujiwara no Tanitsugu. The most prominent suspect behind the coordination of this terrible assassination plot was Crown Prince Sawara, who was currently the direct heir to the imperial throne. Emperor Kanmu took a very harsh step by stripping his younger brother of his royal title and confining Prince Sawara inside the Atakadara temple situated on the outskirts of Nagaoka-kyo. The disgraced prince then decided to undergo a strict 10-day hunger strike to protest his innocence against these grave charges made by the imperial court. The court ordered the exile of Prince Sawara to the remote Awaji Island by carriage under heavy military guard to prevent any rescue attempts by his supporting clans. However, severely weakened by his prolonged hunger strike, the prince died in the Takano area of Kawachi province before the carriage could reach the designated place of exile. The tragic and sudden death of Prince Sawara spread immense spiritual dread throughout Emperor Kanmu and his ministers in the Nagaoka-kyo court, who strongly believed in the active vengeance of restless souls. The body of the deceased prince was buried hastily on Awaji Island, without receiving any proper imperial funeral rites typically granted to high-ranking royalty. Just a few months after the sudden death of Prince Sawara, a series of natural disasters struck the new capital Nagaoka-kyo, beginning with a major smallpox epidemic that killed thousands of citizens. Among the prominent victims of this deadly disease were Empress Fujiwara no Adamuro and a consort of Emperor Kanmu named Fujiwara no Tabiko. Deep mourning soon engulfed the Nagaoka-kyo Imperial Palace when Emperor Kanmu's beloved mother, Empress Dowager Takano no Nagase, also died very suddenly in the year 789 due to an unexplained illness. This rapid loss of his closest family members drove Emperor Kanmu into a severe mental breakdown, causing him to suffer from persistent, terrifying nightmares. In the fateful year 790, a devastating plague swept through the central provinces of Japan, paralyzing crucial agricultural production and preventing the Nagaoka-kyo court from collecting sufficient food taxes for construction. Simultaneously, Crown Prince 8, who was the eldest son of Emperor Kanmu, fell seriously ill and suffered from violent, continuous seizures on his sickbed. Emperor Kanmu summoned the expert diviners from the official Onmyodo office to the palace to perform elaborate divination rituals to find the cause of these consecutive disasters. The final results of the court ritualists' divinations confirmed that the resentful spirit of Prince Sawara had turned into a vengeful demon, seeking direct retribution against the imperial family. To appease the angry spirit of his deceased brother, Emperor Kanmu sent special imperial envoys to Awaji Island to rebury Prince Sawara and posthumously award him the prestigious title of Emperor Sudo. The imperial court also ordered the monks at Daenji Temple to conduct grand Buddhist prayers to dissolve the curse of the vengeful prince. All spiritual efforts of the Nagaoka-kyo court failed when the Katsura River repeatedly rose and caused historic floods that washed away unfinished palace structures and civilian houses. Persistent heavy rains lasting for several weeks in the year 792 transformed the new capital city into a muddy swamp, effectively isolating the imperial family from essential supplies. Citizens and soldiers at Nagaoka-kyo began deserting in large numbers due to fear of the curse of Emperor Sudo and the wrath of nature on this site. Facing this critical situation, the respected statesman Wake no Kiyomaro presented a memorial to Emperor Kanmu, advising him to abandon Nagaoka-kyo completely and search for a new land. Wake no Kiyomaro was a highly trusted official who had famously prevented the rogue monk Dakyo from usurping the throne and possessed extensive knowledge of Chinese geomancy. He convinced Emperor Kanmu that only a prompt relocation to a place with strong positive geomantic energy could break the dark spiritual influence of the late Prince Sawara. In early 793, Emperor Kanmu officially ordered the complete halt of all construction at Nagaoka-kyo after 10 long years of wasting resources and Japanese lives. This cancellation of the massive capital project caused deep division within the imperial court between the officials in charge of construction and those supporting the relocation to a new site. Statesman Wake no Kiyomaro and a group of geographic experts went to survey the Kadono region within Atagi district of Yamashiro province to find a location for the new capital. This land was situated about 10 kilometers northeast of Nagaoka-kyo and was naturally surrounded by tall mountain ranges on its north, east, and west sides. The Kadono region perfectly met the standards of Chinese geomancy, with the Kamo River flowing on the east and the Katsura River flowing on the west to create an auspicious setting. Mount Hiya in the northeast served as a natural defensive wall to prevent evil forces from the demonic gateway from entering the new capital. In March 793, Emperor Kanmu expressed immense satisfaction with this rich terrain and officially launched what would become the very largest construction project in ancient Japanese history. The emperor personally inspected the local topography to evaluate its military defense capabilities, as well as the water transportation potential of this highly fertile and strategically located region. Emperor Kanmu appointed the nobleman Fujiwara no Aguramaro as the chief administrator of the new capital construction project, and ordered him to design a layout modeled closely after Chang'an of the Tang dynasty. Tens of thousands of carpenters and laborers from all the provinces were mobilized to Kadono to begin clearing the ground in the summer of 793. Emperor Kanmu named the new capital Heian-kyo, meaning the capital of peace and tranquility, to express his deep desire for a dynasty free from natural disasters and vengeful spirits. The entire city was planned as a symmetric rectangle measuring approximately 4.7 kilometers in width and 5.2 kilometers in length from north to south. The central road of Heian-kyo was called Suzaku Avenue, a massive avenue over 80 meters wide running directly from the Rajaman Gate in the south to the Suzakuman Gate of the Imperial Palace in the north. This giant thoroughfare divided the capital into two distinct administrative districts, namely the eastern Sakyo and the western Ukyo, to manage the population effectively. The Sakyo district under the administration of the Fujiwara clan grew rapidly due to its elevated dry ground, whereas the western Ukyo district was constantly flooded by the Katsura River and remained sparsely populated. This terrain difference altered the original city planning, causing the eastern half of the capital to become the bustling center of trade and court life. The Daidari Imperial Palace was built at the northern end of Suzaku Avenue, surrounded by tall rammed earth walls and sturdy wooden gates to protect the residence of Emperor Kanmu and the various central ministries. Inside this palace compound, the Chodon Hall hosted major state ceremonies and welcomed official foreign envoys arriving from the distant northern kingdom of Balhi. To avoid repeating the political mistakes of the old Nara capital, Emperor Kanmu issued a strict imperial decree banning the construction of any new Buddhist temples within the city limits of Heian-kyo. The only exceptions permitted were two state-controlled temples, namely Toji in the east and Seiji in the west, located directly near the main Rajaman Gate. Monks from the 6 old Buddhist sects of Nara were forbidden from leaving their southern temples to enter Heian-kyo to prevent any further religious interference in state affairs. This decisive action by Emperor Kanmu successfully reduced the political influence of the entire clergy and restored the absolute authority of the imperial court over the administration. To establish a new spiritual defense system for Heian-kyo independent of Nara Buddhism, Emperor Kanmu supported the monk Seicho in founding the Tendai sect on Mount Hiya, starting from the year 788. The Enryakuji temple built on this mountain peak served as a spiritual shield protecting the northeastern gate of the palace from evil forces. Similarly, the monk Kyukai returned from his study trip to the Tang dynasty in the 9th century and established the Shingon sect under imperial patronage. Emperor Saga, who succeeded Emperor Kanmu, later granted Kyukai control of the Toji temple at the entrance of Heian-kyo to perform elaborate esoteric rituals for the protection of the state. The imperial court increased taxes on peasants in remote provinces and enforced labor conscription to fund the massive construction budget required for building Heian-kyo. Tens of thousands of farmers from the Tohoku and Kyushu regions were forced to abandon their agricultural fields to perform hard labor in Kadono for many consecutive months without receiving pay. Public discontent grew as the imperial court simultaneously forced common citizens to build Heian-kyo and conducted expensive military campaigns to conquer the independent Emishi tribes in northern Japan. These prolonged wars, led by the famous General Sakanao no Tamuramaro, severely exhausted the human and economic resources of the country during the final decades of the 8th century. In October 794, Emperor Kanmu officially performed the ceremony to relocate the capital from Nagaoka-kyo to Heian-kyo, with a grand royal procession of thousands of aristocrats and soldiers. Although the construction of the new capital was not yet fully completed, the royal family decided to settle in the Daidari Palace to stabilize the political situation. The 22nd day of October 794 is recorded in Japanese history as the official beginning of the Heian period, which would last for nearly 4 centuries of imperial rule. The court issued a general amnesty for numerous prisoners across the entire nation to mark this momentous day and to seek the protection of the traditional deities. Immediately after settling in Heian-kyo, Emperor Kanmu ordered the name of Yamashiro province to be changed from its old characters, meaning mountain, back to new characters, meaning mountain fortress. This renaming reflected the court's belief that the local geography would serve as a natural barrier to protect the imperial dynasty from any future external military invasions. The Heian-kyo court faced severe financial strain because Emperor Kanmu insisted on finishing complex imperial projects like the Buryakuin Hall used for grand state banquets. The depleted state budget forced the ministers to hold emergency meetings to discuss reducing the scale of secondary construction projects, and scaling down the military garrisons stationed along the northern borders. In the year 797, the court historian Sugano no Mamichi completed the Shoku Nihongi, a 40-volume historical chronicle recording events from the reign of Empress Jito to Emperor Kanmu. This chronicle documented the relocation process from Nara to Nagaoka-kyo and explained why the court eventually abandoned that site to settle permanently in the new capital city of Heian-kyo. The Fujiwara clan capitalized on the construction and settlement of Heian-kyo to monopolize key administrative positions within the new government by marrying their daughters into the imperial family. The earlier rise of Fujiwara no Fuhito in the preceding centuries laid a firm historical foundation for his descendants to manipulate political power in this newly established capital. To maintain social order in Heian-kyo, Emperor Kanmu established the Kebeishi police office in the early years of the 9th century with full authority to investigate crimes and patrol the merchant districts of eastern Sakyo. This special force helped suppress the theft and violence that erupted due to the rapid influx of impoverished immigrants looking for work. The economy of Heian-kyo was greatly boosted by the establishment of two large state-run markets, namely the East Market in Sakyo and the West Market in Ukyo, in the year 796. Goods from various provinces, including fine silk from Mino and rice from Echigo, were widely traded under the strict supervision of official market administrators. The growth of Heian-kyo attracted official envoys from the northern kingdom of Balhi, leading to the establishment of the Korakan diplomatic guest houses in the capital to accommodate them. These cultural and commercial exchanges brought valuable glazed ceramics and rare medicinal herbs directly into the imperial palace for the use of the Japanese royal court. Although the imperial court relocated to Heian-kyo, the fear of Prince Sawara's vengeful ghost continued to haunt the mind of Emperor Kanmu during the final years of his life. The emperor regularly dispatched close ministers to the pseudo-imperial tomb located in Yamato province to perform elaborate purification rituals and offer expensive agricultural products from the palace. In the year 805, Emperor Kanmu summoned a famous court debate called the Tokusei debate between two senior ministers, Fujiwara no Otsugu and Sugano no Mamichi, to discuss national policy. This historic debate focused on whether the imperial court should continue both the costly military campaigns in the north and the extensive construction projects of Heian-kyo. Minister Fujiwara no Otsugu successfully convinced Emperor Kanmu to suspend both the construction of Heian-kyo and the military expeditions against the Emishi tribes due to the exhausted state treasury. This crucial decision provided much-needed relief to the common Japanese people across all provinces who had suffered from heavy taxes and forced labor for over 2 decades. Emperor Kanmu passed away in the year 806 at the age of 70, having successfully completed one of the most significant capital relocations in East Asian history and leaving behind a developing Heian-kyo. He was buried at the Kashiwabara Imperial Mausoleum in the south of the capital, bringing an end to a turbulent yet highly transformative reign. Crown Prince 8 succeeded the throne as Emperor Heian in the year 806, but soon faced severe health issues that forced him to abdicate in favor of his younger brother just 3 years later. The newly enthroned ruler, Emperor Saga, was determined to maintain the administrative structures and urban layout established by his father in Heian-kyo. The stability of Heian-kyo was severely threatened in the year 810 when the retired Emperor Heian, after recovering from his illness, unilaterally issued a decree to relocate the capital back to the ancient city of Heijo-kyo in Nara. This backward decision sparked a major political crisis between the rival courts of the two royal brothers. Retired Emperor Heian received strong support from his favorite female court officer Fujiwara no Kusuko and her brother, the high official Fujiwara no Nakanari, who aimed to restore the influence of Nara. They attempted to mobilize regional troops from the eastern provinces to enforce the relocation decree and oppose the government of Emperor Saga in Heian-kyo. Emperor Saga acted swiftly by ordering the closure of crucial mountain barriers at the Suzuka Pass and Fuwa Pass to block the forces of retired Emperor Heian from advancing northeastward. The emperor also appointed the renowned General Sakanao no Tamuramaro as commander of the imperial army to prepare for defense against this armed rebellion from Nara. Confronted by the massive imperial army led by Sakanao no Tamuramaro, the rebel forces of retired Emperor Hei's disbanded rapidly without engaging in any major military clash. The retired emperor was forced to abandon his relocation plan, return to Nara, and shave his head to become a Buddhist monk in order to save his own life. Following the collapse of the Nara rebellion, Emperor Saga cancelled all other capital relocation projects and officially designated Heian-kyo as the permanent seat of the Japanese Empire. The severe political crisis ended with Fujiwara no Kyusuko taking her own life with poison, while her co-conspirator brother Fujiwara no Nakanari was executed by the Imperial Guards. After crushing the rebellion of 810, Emperor Saga established the private secretariat office of Kurondokoro, placing it directly near the imperial bedchambers to manage confidential state papers and coordinate military actions. This office was headed by loyal members of the Fujiwara clan to prevent further plots from developing inside the administrative chambers of the imperial palace. The capital city of Heian-kyo entered a period of rapid development during the reign of Emperor Saga, who ordered the compilation of new legal codes like the Kanin Kyakushiki to strengthen national administration. The emperor was also a passionate practitioner of Chinese calligraphy and transformed the imperial palace into a brilliant center for classical literature and court arts. The urban layout of Heian-kyo intentionally omitted the construction of massive stone walls to surround the city limits, differing significantly from the architectural models of the Tang dynasty capitals in China. This absence of stone walls reflected the court's trust in domestic security and the protection offered by the surrounding high mountain ranges of Yamashiro province. The builders of Heian-kyo established this open planning model based on defense concepts that differed from the fortified layouts of Chinese imperial cities. Entrances into the capital were secured only by small water ditches and simple wooden checkpoints placed along the major roads connecting the East Sakyo and West Ukyo districts to the surrounding provinces. Aristocrats of the Fujiwara clan gradually shifted the political focus from the official Daidari Palace to their own luxurious residential compounds built in the prosperous eastern Sakyo district. These private residential estates featured the classic architectural style characterized by open wooden corridors connecting multiple chambers and looking out onto large garden landscapes with artificial ponds. The lifestyle of Heian-kyo aristocrats centered on cherry blossom viewing parties, poetry writing, and traditional music performances inside their private compounds. The multi-layered silk robes worn by male officials and the complex 12-layered silk kimono worn by female court members served as direct visual indicators of the wealth and social standing of the ruling class. By the middle of the 9th century, the Fujiwara clan established the second regency system to control the imperial throne by appointing their members as Sessho regents and Kanpaku chancellors. The actual political authority of the nation was held by these Fujiwara leaders, while the Heian emperors were relegated to performing traditional Shinto religious rituals in the capital. While relocating the capital to Heian-kyo successfully removed the court from Nara monks, it also led to the neglect of military control in the distant provinces. Powerful provincial warrior families like the Minamoto clan and the Terra clan began to accumulate private military forces in the countryside to protect their lands and compete for local power. In the year 894, acting on the advice of the high official Sugawara no Michizane, the Heian-kyo court decided to completely abolish the Kantoshi diplomatic missions to the Tang dynasty in China due to instability on the continent. This historic decision severed the last formal diplomatic ties between the Japanese court and the Chinese imperial dynasties. Following the cessation of official embassies to China, the aristocrats of Heian-kyo cultivated the kokufu culture, which emphasized uniquely Japanese aesthetics and values. They simplified the complex rituals previously imported from the Asian continent and developed new art forms and clothing styles better suited to the local climate and living conditions of the entire Japanese archipelago. During the early years of the 9th century, Heian court scholars developed the hiragana and katakana phonetic scripts by simplifying complex Chinese characters to streamline administrative record-keeping within the capital. This new phonetic writing system enabled female court attendants in the imperial palace to freely compose classical poetry and maintain personal diaries in their native Japanese language. The female writer Murasaki Shikabu who lived in the capital of Heian-kyo during the early 11th century, authored the tale of Genji, which is widely recognized as the world's first novel. This masterpiece of classical literature provides a highly detailed description of the romantic relationships and complex political intrigues that occurred within the Heian imperial court. During the same era, the court lady Sei Shonagon completed the Pillow Book, which recorded her keen and witty observations of daily palace life serving Empress Teishi in the capital of Heian-kyo. Her writings left a rich historical record that allows later generations to visualize the highly refined and artistic lifestyle of the Heian aristocracy. While Heian-kyo developed its high culture, the aristocracy accumulated private estate lands called shun, which severely eroded the tax base of the central government. By the 10th century, a vast portion of agricultural land throughout Japan had acquired tax-exempt status, leaving the imperial treasury in a state of chronic financial crisis that weakened state authority. The financially depleted Heian-kyo court was unable to maintain regular armies to secure the lawless provinces far from the capital. This security failure forced the owners of shun estates to arm themselves and hire professional warrior bands to protect their properties, which directly stimulated the formation and expansion of the warrior class known as samurai. In the year 939, a massive rebellion led by the regional warrior Tara no Masakado erupted in the eastern Kanto region to directly challenge the authority of the distant Heian-kyo court. Although this local rebellion was quickly suppressed, it delivered a stern warning to the imperial court about the alarming military weakness of the central government. The military threat to the Heian-kyo court reached its peak in the late 12th century, when the Genpei War erupted between the rival warrior coalitions of the Minamoto and Tara clans. This highly destructive civil war devastated several areas surrounding the capital city and threw the aristocratic court officials into a state of panic and helplessness. In the year 1185, the Minamoto clan won the decisive victory at the Battle of Dan no Yura, and General Minamoto no Yoritomo established the first military Kamakura shogunate in 1192 to hold actual rule over the nation. Although the center of military power shifted to Kamakura, Heian-kyo still remained the nominal capital of the Japanese imperial court. Through centuries of instability during the Muromachi and Sengoku periods, the city of Heian-kyo suffered severe damage, particularly during the 10-year Onin War that began in the year 1467. Most of the elegant private estates and the original Daidari Palace buildings were completely burned to ashes in the massive fires that engulfed the entire city. By the Edo period starting in the year 1603, the Tokugawa shogunate established its administrative center in the eastern city of Edo, while the emperors continued to reside in the Kyoto Imperial Palace within the old capital of Heian-kyo. The shogunate provided funds to restore major temples and the imperial palace buildings to maintain social order. The capital Heian-kyo was constructed in a flat basin that sloped gently from north to south, which allowed the natural drainage system to function efficiently through artificial canals. This canal network connected directly with the Yodo River, ensuring the smooth transport of tax rice and regional products from the coastal provinces directly to the imperial palace. The Daidari Imperial Palace occupied a large area in the north of the capital, featuring 17 bright red wooden gates and small Shinto shrines for royal ceremonies. The most prominent building was the Daigokyuden Great Hall of State, built with green glazed roof tiles and lacquer-red wooden pillars that followed the styles of the Tang dynasty. To the south of the Daidari Palace, the court created a grand imperial garden called Shinsanen, featuring a large natural pond and stone arrangements that reflected Chinese mythical themes. This garden served as the main venue where Emperor Kanmu hosted flower-viewing banquets and performed formal rain-making rituals during severe summer droughts that threatened the entire capital. The division of Heian-kyo into Sakyo and Ukyo reflected a clear social divide, as wealthy aristocrats settled in eastern Sakyo along the Kamo River to avoid seasonal flooding. Meanwhile, the western Ukyo district near the Katsura River turned into a swampy area filled with simple agricultural rice fields, worked by the impoverished commoner class of Heian-kyo. The imperial court at Heian-kyo established a strict administrative system dividing the city into small residential blocks called cho, which were enclosed by tall wooden fences and secured by guarded gates. All residents within each individual Cho block held collective responsibility for cleaning the dirt streets and reporting illegal activities directly to the official city commissioner. However, the peace of Heian-kyo in its early years was frequently disrupted by rumors of malevolent yokai spirits appearing on the tiled roofs of wooden houses at night. Capital residents regularly hung protective paper amulets obtained from Shinto shrines at their doors and avoided leaving their homes after sunset to protect themselves from these dark spirits. Emperor Kanmu ordered the official diviners of the Onmyodo office to establish stone boundary markers at the 4 outer corners of Heian-kyo to create a protective spiritual barrier. These markers were inscribed with sacred characters to pacify the vengeful soul of Prince Sawara and to prevent natural disasters from invading the capital from the spirit realm. To reduce the enormous construction expenses of Heian-kyo, Emperor Kanmu suspended the minting of Japan's first official copper coins, the Wado Kaichin, which had circulated since the Nara period. The Imperial court focused all state revenues collected from salt and fabric taxes to pay salaries for the highly skilled carpenters working in the entire Kadono region. The relocation from Nagaoka-kyo to Heian-kyo marked a massive shift in court politics as the Fujiwara clan successfully marginalized rival factions, including the Kai clan and the Otomo clan. The earlier assassination of Fujiwara no Tanitsugu provided the perfect pretext for the Fujiwara family to carry out sweeping purges of their key political enemies in the imperial court. Following the death of Emperor Kanmu in the year 806, successive rulers like Emperor Saga made great efforts to complete Heian-kyo's urban infrastructure, which included constructing the Gojo Bridge across the Kamo River. This massive wooden bridge became a highly vital transport link, connecting the eastern Sakyo district directly with the eastern provinces of feudal Japan. The development of Heian-kyo also led to new forms of interior art, such as multi-panel folding screens decorated with gold leaf paintings of seasonal landscapes. These highly expensive artworks were positioned inside the spacious receiving rooms of aristocratic estates in the Sakyo district to visually demonstrate the refined tastes and immense wealth of the noble owners. The diet of Heian-kyo aristocrats was extremely luxurious, featuring fresh seafood delicacies transported rapidly from coastal Wakasa Bay to the Daidari Palace by organized express messenger horses. In contrast, the poor inhabitants residing in the western Ukkyo district survived primarily on millet porridge and vegetables grown near the contaminated drainage ditches of the entire capital city. In the year 818, Emperor Saga issued a historic imperial decree suspending the execution of the death penalty throughout all provinces of Japan, a rare humanitarian decision influenced deeply by Buddhist teachings on compassion. This long-standing policy contributed directly to maintaining a relatively peaceful social environment within the capital of Heian-kyo that lasted for nearly 3 centuries. The gradual decline of the Ritsuryo administrative system starting in the late 9th century left the Heian-kyo court unable to control tax collection from remote Shun estates. Large aristocratic clans living in the capital began to depend entirely on direct revenues from their private Shun holdings to maintain their luxurious lifestyles in the eastern Sakyo district. By the 11th century, the Fujiwara clan reached the zenith of its power under the regent Fujiwara no Michinaga, who successfully married 3 of his daughters to 3 consecutive emperors. He constructed the Grand Hajoji Temple complex along the banks of the Kamo River to display the political dominance of his family within the capital of Heian-kyo. The court's heavy reliance on provincial samurai to protect the capital city allowed these military specialists to intervene directly in royal succession disputes. In 1156, the Hojin Rebellion erupted, transforming the streets of Heian-kyo into a bloody battlefield between rival eastern and western warrior factions, and initiating the rapid rise of the samurai class to national dominance. The decisive struggle between the Minamoto clan and the Taira clan concluded with the establishment of the military Kamakura shogunate by General Minamoto no Yoritomo in the year 1192 in eastern Japan. This historic event stripped the Heian-kyo imperial court of its actual political power after more than 400 years of continuous imperial rule. Despite the political transition, Heian-kyo remained the leading religious and cultural center of Japan thanks to the Kyoto Imperial Palace and the Kiyomizu-dera Temple located on the slopes of Mount Ottawa. The city continued to draw thousands of Buddhist pilgrims each year who traveled from distant provinces to worship the ancient wooden statues of deities. The most devastating destruction in the history of Heian-kyo occurred during the Anin War beginning in 1467, when rival samurai factions used long-range weapons to set fire to the central Sakyo district. Over 90% of the court's historic documents and precious works of art were reduced to ashes in these catastrophic urban conflagrations during this decade-long conflict. Following the chaotic Sengoku period, General Toyotomi Hideyoshi launched a major urban reconstruction project in Heian-kyo during the late 16th century, which included building a massive earthen wall called the Odoi to prevent flooding. He also rebuilt the merchant districts and consolidated various Buddhist temples into a single administrative area known as Teramachi to simplify governance. During the Edo period starting in the year 1603, the Tokugawa shogunate respected the historical status of Heian-kyo by allocating funds to rebuild and restore the Kyoto Gosho Imperial Palace. The reigning emperors continued to conduct traditional Shinto ceremonies within the palace grounds to pray for the peace and the lasting prosperity of the entire Japanese nation. Emperor Kanmu's decision to relocate the capital from Heijo-kyo to Nagaoka-kyo and finally to Heian-kyo shaped the architectural layout and urban culture of Japan for the next millennium. The ancient grid pattern map with perpendicular streets that defined Heian-kyo still serves as the core foundation for the street layout of modern Kyoto in the present day. Archaeological excavations conducted at the Nagaoka-kyo ruins in Kyoto Prefecture have shed light on the brief and tragic history of this abandoned capital. Modern historians have discovered the wooden foundations of ancient imperial palaces and stone drainage canals that were buried under thick layers of mud and sand from the devastating floods of the year 792. Meanwhile, the gentle Kamo River continues to flow through the heart of modern Kyoto, just as it flowed past the Sakyo district of ancient Heian-kyo more than 1,200 years ago. The green willow trees along the riverbanks stand as silent witnesses to the rise and fall of a dynasty that relocated to escape a curse. The ancient Shimagamo Shinto shrine located at the junction of the Kamo and Takano rivers still preserves the sacred rituals established when Emperor Kanmu began constructing Heian-kyo in the 8th century. The quiet gravel courtyard under the ancient forest of Tadasu no more receives the soft afternoon sunlight, marking the historical starting point of the Heian era.